I remember back when I was a madam and I would talk to women, and it always blew my mind that they could have a live-in boyfriend or a husband that thought that what they did was okay. Because I thought, why, how on God's green earth could a man think that you having sex with another man was okay? They're willing to subjugate their masculine drives so that they can be taken care of. Hello and welcome to Sex, Love, and Soul. I'm Mary Knight, and as always, I am so glad that you're here. Today I'm doing something a little different. This is a video I decided to create because I was reading through the comments this morning. Today's Sunday, April the 7th, and I was answering some of the comments. And I always feel like I never am quite satisfied with the level of discourse that I'm providing in my comments. Some of it is just because of the way that I process information and thinking. I love writing about things, but sometimes it's easier for me just to create a video because I feel like you can hear my tone of voice, you can see my face. There's so many nuances that can be completely left out of commenting situations. And sometimes some of the comments I get are not the most positive, and I don't always take them negatively, but sometimes I do think, did you not watch the video? and I also realize that my context is different than many of you viewing. This video that I'm talking about is what was From Stripper to Wife to Invisible, What Rejection Taught Me. And I think that the thumbnail was Other Men Wanted Me, but My Husband Didn't. And I am talking about a time period that was 20 years ago. I've had 2 decades to reflect on this situation. And that's why I'm sharing it, is because this is a situation that happened that was very interesting and very hurtful to me. And I didn't understand what was going on. And I honestly didn't understand my role in it. And that's kind of funny to think back on a time 20 years ago when I was 40. So I was a grown woman. It was this very interesting time period for me of a lot of frustration, and I was also going through just starting this very serious path towards personal development. And it was being rejected by my ex-husband that kind of forced me along that path because I didn't know how to solve this problem. I was at my wit's end. And I certainly don't blame him for all these things that happened. It was the two of us together. It was the dynamic that we both created. I was reading every kind of material I could get on philosophy and religion and morality and just all these different things because I really wanted to learn. I really wanted to understand why I was in this situation and why I was so miserable at 40 years old when I considered myself to be this very capable, intelligent, strong person, and yet I just felt like I was just fucking up over and over again. The comments I'm seeing, and the thing that I am so fascinated by myself is human sexuality. We don't understand things about sex drive. We don't understand what can drive people to be attracted to certain kinds of women or certain kinds of men, because there are actually men who are very turned on by women who are kind of these bad girls. That was me. And I've mentioned that my ex-husband loved dating women who were in these jobs, in these occupations where we are titillating other men for money. And instead of him being worried about me, he was, yeah, go do that, go make your money. You know, that's what he was saying to me anyway. And there's a few different ways that this can go. I've heard one other psychologist talk about this, Dr. Sadia Khan. I do like most of the things she talks about. I don't agree with her assessment, some of her assessments on sex workers, but mostly I do agree with her. But the one thing that she says that I've found, I was like, oh my God, now I understand what was going on between me and my ex and him and the other women that he dated. And that is, he had ruined himself, sadly, with porn. He needed a lot of stimulation, kind of over the top, unusual stimulation to get an erection, maintain an erection, and be able to have sex. And at first, dating a woman who was a stripper or who was an escort or who was a fetish model or whatever was exciting to him because it was naughty. And I was one of those women, I looked like one of those women that he was seeing in the porn videos. Yeah, that's super exciting at first. And then it just becomes another thing, just like anything else that you do on repeat, when there's no emotional connection. I could say we were in love, but he just started to get on my nerves because I didn't respect him. I couldn't count on him. Everything was always left up to me. I was always calling all the shots. And I know sometimes when you hear about women like this or you're in a relationship with a woman like that, you're like, yeah, well, that's the way it's happening is because that's what she wants. It's like the only reason I wanted that was because I didn't trust him to handle things. Did I want him to take the lead? I did. Would I have liked it if he had been dominant and been a leader with me? I'll be honest, I don't know how I would have responded. I don't know. Because I was so caught up in my own drama, that it wasn't about him. It was about me and how I viewed myself and viewed the world. Now, I blamed him, but that doesn't mean that it was his fault. And that didn't mean that shortly after we split up that I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I was a bitch. I was awful. I was not a good wife. I wasn't. And I'm never anywhere in the videos I've created about my ex-husband have I ever said, oh, yes, and I was a good wife, perfect angel, and he was just a dirtbag. No, because that's not how I feel at all. I didn't even feel like that at the time. And in talking to other women who were or are sex workers, they have experienced the same kind of thing. They have a man that will stay with them, says he's okay with it, but their sex life sucks. I remember back when I was a madam and I would talk to women, and it always blew my mind that they could have a live-in boyfriend or a husband that thought that what they did was okay. Because I thought, why, how on God's green earth could a man think that you having sex with another man was okay, regardless of the situation? How could they think that was okay? Some men, it's because they like the benefits of that. They like that they can stay home and they can play video games and smoke weed all day and not have a job. They're willing to subjugate their masculine drives so that they can be taken care of. One of the comments I read in here that was very thoughtful that I appreciated with this, I'm looking down here, I don't see it offhand, but it was, do you think that depression played a role in the way that your husband was behaving? Absolutely. And yeah, and you can't tell me that these guys that were smoking weed, playing video games all day with no job, no motivation, no ambition. And this was 20 years ago that I'm talking about too. This isn't like now where there's a whole rash of people acting like that. This was a time when that was shameful. It was unusual and it was shameful. And the woman hid that's what her boyfriend was about, and he hid it too. When he would make up stories about what he did for a living. And so yeah, that type of man, there were a couple of things going on. One, yes, was he depressed? Sure. Was he a mama's boy just looking for a handout? Yes. One thing that was starting to happen back then, and a little bit before then, was the man that liked to think of himself as enlightened. He liked to think of himself as a feminist. And he was like, I'm this empowered, enlightened man because I'm going to allow my woman to explore her sexuality. And if that means that she's going to do that with other men for money, then you know what? Who am I to judge? I'm going to let her do that. And they really believe that. That was their attitude. And I always thought, that is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. It's lame and it's weak. Because a woman that you truly care for, you're not going to be okay with that. You're not. If you're a normal, healthy man, that is not going to be okay with you. Period. Of all the escorts that I've known, One had a boyfriend with a professional job. Most of the others didn't. Being an escort, where you are having sex with men for money, that's a lot different than being a stripper, in my mind. That's a lot different than being an OnlyFans model also, for different reasons. There's different gradations of that. Because there's plenty of men that are like, yeah, sure, I'll date a stripper, that's fine. Marry one? Okay, that's a different story. And I also think that's kind of like a younger person's game. I think it's men who lack a lot of experience that are really super turned on by that, or men who come from a really just like a ho-hum sex life, or they've never had a lot of sexual experiences. They've gotten divorced and now they're in their 40s and they're dating this 25-year-old hot stripper. Yeah, I mean, that can be very energizing for some people, right? It takes all kinds. Do I think that there was something off with the whole idea that my husband thought it was okay that I was doing that? Absolutely. Even at the time, I was like, why is this okay with you? I didn't say that to him, but I would think it. I would think it. Because what was happening is I was starting to see my ex-husband as a fraud. With his words, he would say that, oh yeah, this is great, this is okay. But then with his actions, he told a very different story. If he had been honest with himself about what he was thinking and feeling, his free ride would have been over. He would have had to go and get a job and start taking care of himself and take care of business. And it was easier for him to just let me do all of that, meanwhile not admitting to himself how much it was really tearing him apart. Okay, this one comment, and I did comment on this one. The idea that being a stripper has no effect on a husband versus a boyfriend is crazy. At first, he acted fine. And I've been in that situation before, and so have other women, that, yeah, they tell you it's fine and it's fun, and what you have between you is very sexy and very passionate, and it feels like a huge relief because you're finally with someone who accepts you. And that's a big thing for women who are involved in this kind of work, is that you keep a lot to yourself because you're so used to having people judge you. And so you don't open yourself up, because when you do, and then, you know, in a couple of months' time, you're rejected, it just hurts that much more because you believed this person. And you know what? And the men, I think they mean it at the time, because it's like I was saying, it's fun, it's sexy, it's energizing. I mean, because different people are at different places in life, where some men would never dream of doing something like this, and some men just aren't there in your privileged position yet. So even understanding the background, I can't imagine it having no influence when a wife is throwing her minimally clothed body around in front of other men for attention. You know, it wasn't for attention, it was for money. There's a big difference, because it wasn't like I was going around like that during the day, going to the grocery store, going to the mall, going to shows, going to nightclubs, and, you know, wearing 6-inch heels and a flimsy little dress and a thong. That's different, right? I was doing it in the confines of a club. So I wasn't doing it for attention, I was doing it for money. Normally I wore cowboy boots and jeans, and all right, so I would wear a halter top, okay, but I wore a bra. But he liked me to dress very provocatively out in public too. Like, that was his thing, and I was like, I'm not wearing that because I can't sit down in that dress. I remember having some of those discussions. And I do like this comment from David Christian 2368. Your narrative highlights the biggest problem, in my opinion, failed male leadership. Yes, because if he had been in his masculine when we met, he never would have been attracted to me, because I was in my masculine energy. So a masculine energy man is not going to be attracted to a masculine energy woman. Doesn't mean he's not going to sleep with her a time or two, but he's certainly not going to get involved in a relationship with her. Thanks for removing the music. You are welcome. And yeah, Miles Wickman, part of him may have gotten excited by the stripping, but I guarantee you he paid a heavy price. Yeah, after the fact, he was talking with one of my friends, and he said that he hated that I had gone back to stripping. And he didn't say a word. He didn't say a damn word to me. And I think it's because he just felt so powerless. Again, because he felt stuck between a rock and a hard place. And instead of him being willing to be in that hard place and say, honey, don't do that. I cannot stand the thought of you doing that. If he had said that to me, I don't know what kind of reaction I would have had. Honestly, I might have thought that he was being stupid. I mean, that's where I was then. And, hey, this is a means to an end. You're not capable of getting a decent job, so I'm going to take care of this while you try to get a job. But instead of him standing up to me and saying, no wife of mine is going to do that bullshit, he didn't. And I want to be crystal clear on this again. I'm not saying that his not doing that was wrong. I'm relaying information here. And reflecting back on some of that, it's like, wow, I am willing to definitely take on my role with this, that I was not open to his being in his masculine and his being a leader. By this time, I was over it. I had never, in the 5 years we had been together, been able to count on him for really anything. He would try, and he would have stops and starts. For him to say that to me and for me to be receptive to that and to trust him, we were so far down the path by this time. Yeah. And also, it's like when we were married, I was not doing sex work of any kind. I was before, but not during the time we were married. Until this point right here. And then after that, we were together maybe 8 months, something like that, before we split up. Panama, Canada, he was punishing you for something. It was a revenge thing. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Like he was doing that weird passive aggressive, instead of just coming to me and being open with me and telling me this, I hate this. I want you to stop. I think he didn't think he had the right to do that. And he did. I was his wife. He had every right to tell me, I don't like it that you're doing that. When I think about you doing that, I hate it. But that never came up. The truther, 954. The world, okay, I guess he's quoting me. The world is telling me you're hot, you're valuable. Okay. I don't think that's exactly what I said. I don't know. You're a woman who really gets off and loves what she did. But hot and valuable are not the same thing. Well, I got news for you. Throughout all time, when a woman was considered to be sexually attractive, that was where her value came from. It's still that way. A woman's beauty in this world is part of her value, right, wrong, or whatever. A woman is valued on how she can bring pleasure to other people. That's a fact. It doesn't mean she's not valued in other ways, but yes, the world was telling me that I was hot. And so that's where I was getting my value. Again, this was 20 years ago. I feel differently about myself now. Also, the world doesn't look at me in the same way. Although I'm still considered to be an attractive woman, it's different because I'm 60 now, right? And so, yeah, it's different now for me. And I'm glad that it's different. But yes, you cannot tell me a woman's beauty that the world doesn't value a woman's beauty. I mean, look at Instagram. Good Lord. Come on. The reason that I was able to make the money that I made as a stripper, as an escort, was because of my perceived hotness. That was part of it. And as far as like got off and loved what I did, no, I didn't. It was about the money. I don't know why people have a hard time understanding that. It was about the money. Did I like attention? Of course I did. I'm a human being. Did I get off on it? No. No. But it messed with me when I would have men at the grocery store asking me for my phone number, and then I come home and then my husband can't even look up from the computer. Hot and valuable are not the same thing. Well, yeah, they are. And so the rest of the comment, I don't understand. I think of hot, especially by me, because I've lived a life afraid following women, but intimacy, that's the real deal. That's what's left at the end of the day. That's what I was talking about. Is yeah, we didn't have that. We weren't friends. When it all came down to it, we weren't friends. But funny, we became friends after. But his new girlfriend never liked me. Go figure. Let's see. So at Gunter Torfs 6486, he put a timestamp, 13:55. Difficult for a man to get into his masculine energy when his partner doesn't show any sexual interest in him herself. It should be a two-way street simultaneously. A woman should not affect whether or not a man can be in his masculine energy. That comes from within himself. Right? As men, you don't look outside of yourself for validation, like, oh, now I can be in my masculine because she desires me. That's not how that works. Like, you're in your masculine because that's who you are at your core. You don't wait for permission to be in your masculine. That's what a lot of nice guys do, and that's why they're not getting laid by their wives or in dating situations. It should be a two-way street. Feminine energy responds to the masculine. The thing about the masculine, it should never be difficult for a man to get into his masculine energy. That's up to him. That's not up to the woman he's with. That's up to him. That was what caused this whole problem. You made some good points about people like myself, who's a little soft sometimes. But one thing I want to say is your first husband was so into porn, it completely fucked with his head. Oh, it did. And I didn't even realize that because I didn't know. I thought, oh yeah, once he stops looking at it, it won't be. Yeah, I didn't know. I watch porn a couple of minutes, messes me up for a few days. So I avoid that completely. Well, good for you. Good for you. In those days that your husband was deeply into the porn industry, it completely fucked him up and subsequently fucked up your marriage. Well, yeah. And there were problems from the beginning. And my mistake was that I got into the relationship. I didn't have to, but I did. I didn't understand what was going on. Oh, that was not spittle. Okay. And then Le Pendant Sémantique. That's a cool name. Not that he was right. Can you now understand why he was withdrawing? Absolutely. Yes, and yes, because I was not providing any kind of feminine softness at all. Why the hell would he want to be around me? He didn't want to be around me. Oh yeah, this is the CR Phil, and I did answer that about the main problem was depression. Yes, I do think so. Oh yeah, and then some guy X9DC, it isn't natural for a man to be okay with his woman being with other men. I'm sure he was able to talk himself into being okay with your work for stretches of time, but on some level, I'm sure it was working on him. Yeah, and it depends on him being honest with himself, which he probably wasn't being. Oh, and that it was a kink. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that is a kink. To want to be with women, that you're titillated by your woman titillating other men, but then you're going home to him, because that was a big thing for him. He was very jealous too, which is so dumb. And even at the time, it bothered me. And I would tell him, this doesn't even make any sense. And that's why I got mad at him too, made it even more doubly troubling because I'm like, you don't want me, but you don't want anybody else to have me. That is so fucked up, But yes, so okay, so this is a super long video. I don't want this to be long, but anyway, I do have a lot to say about this. Of course, I have so many things I want to talk to y'all about. I've got to start doing more videos, but I really appreciate the comments. I love the thoughtfulness. I love that you're asking questions. And please email me at mary@sexloveandsoul.com if you have something personal and private that you want to discuss or you want an answer to, but you don't want it to be in the comment section. I love being here for you. Okay, thanks for listening. And oh, and if you haven't subscribed, Now is the time. It's fun, it's fast, it's easy, it's free. And you just might learn something. Okay, bye for now.